Welcome to Kumbasoft DPAA tutorials. This tutorial is about basic log viewing features of the DPAA product. So be sure to set your video playback to high definition, and though some visual details of DPAA may have changed since this video was created, the functionality will be the same. To start out this video, I've started up DPAA and I've selected a couple of appliances and I've selected the default domain. We're going to be focusing on a Logs tab located up here in the horizontal row of tabs at the top of the screen. We're going to select the Logs tab. Now when I select the Logs tab, DPAA lists an aggregate set of logging targets that are available to me based upon the appliance and domain selections I have made. I can click and select more than one domain for this effort. But for now, we see a list of logging targets that are available to us based upon our current appliance domain selection. You'll notice that I have a default log selected already, and DPAA knows we always have a default log, and so this is a safe selection to make. As we change domain selections or appliance selections, the logging target list will change to adapt to the selections that we have made. So now what we're saying is, based upon the selection of both of these appliances and this domain, this is an aggregate set of logging targets available to us in that selection. Then, of course, we have two default logs there as well. The fractional number displayed next to each logging target indicates to you the total number of logging targets represented by the number on the right, and the total number of logging targets that are enabled of those represented on the left. So in this particular case, I have two default logs. Why? Because I have two domains, appliances selected, and one domain selected, which is two domains. So I have two different logs. Likewise, I only have one web server logging target from this selection that I have made. The other numbers can indicate to you that there's only one of two of these logging targets that are actually enabled. And this one indicates that there are no logging targets enabled here. What's important about these selections is before I look at logs, I may want to enable a logging target before I begin looking at those logs because the logs in that logging target may be stale. To do that, I can select any number of these logging targets that are not fully enabled, and I can enable them with this button above the logging target list. DPAA then goes out and sets it in administration state of all the logging targets that are disabled, and in a short period of time, this fractional number will change to reflect that now we have all the logging targets enabled of all the selected logging targets that we have available to us. To disable a logging target, we can go and use the disable screen, and we can do again more than one. And I can disable those logging targets by selecting the disable button above the logging target screen. DPAA will go and set the disabled state of those, and now you can see that none of these logging targets are now enabled. The color coding just indicates to you a partial disabled state or a complete disabled state, so at a glance, you can tell whether or not you're going to be getting potentially stale logs. You can still search logs that are disabled, but the logging entries may not be current. To get the logs that you want from a particular logging target, you can select one or more logging targets, and we can go over here and select the search button located next to the search expression at the top of the logs screen. This will then go out and aggregate the logs together in one view for you and showing us all the logging entries for both of these appliances, all the selected domains, and all the selected logging targets. In this example, I just have one domain and one logging target selected, but as you can see by these quick filters, which we will see later in another tutorial, we have two appliances represented. Once these logs are displayed, you can move columns around to be able to see the logs in the way you want to be able to see them. You're not restricted to the default view DPAA provides. You can also sort the logging entries by clicking on a column header. And when you click the first time, it will sort in alphabetical order forward. And then when you click the second time, it will sort in reverse. We can also do that with numerical and time fields, and DPAA sorts it properly based upon the kind of data that's in that particular field. Another feature that's convenient for us is, instead of having to scroll around and look at all the logging entries, we can hover over the logging entries and we can see a little pop-up explaining to us what's in that logging entry on that row without us having to scroll around. This is sometimes useful, especially if the message field is very wide and it becomes difficult to spread this out as wide as we need it to be able to see it, or we may want to be able to see this in a consolidated fashion rather than having to scroll back and forth here. However, at times, this can get in your way. You may want to be doing something with his logging entries, selecting them or multi-selecting them, and as you hover, this hover state kind of gets in the way of what you're doing. To turn that off, you can go up here and select Enable Hover to disable that checkbox. Now, as I hover my mouse, the logging entries no longer show inside of a pop-up. To turn it back on us, if we select the Enable Hover button again, and now I have the Enable Featured BAT that makes it available to us so we can see the logs as we want to. Another neat feature that we have is if we want to copy these logs around for some particular reason, maybe we want to be able to show a number of logs for some purpose, maybe in filing a case with IBM, or maybe be able to send to someone else to say, hey, can you though fix this situation? You can select any number of logs by doing Control-click or Shift-click. And then you can use either the hamburger menu, or you can right-click over this list and select a Copy All or Selected to the clipboard. Now, if I had not selected any of these login entries, it would be collecting all of them. Otherwise, it's going to collect only those if I have selected. To prove that works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a text editor, and I'm going to do a Control-V or paste to show that we just pasted these logging entries into this text field that we copied to the clipboard earlier. That's all we have for this video. If you want more information and want to be able to see other tutorials, please go out to www.kumbasoft.com, go to the Features and Tutorials list, and you can see a whole list of other features that are available to you and how to use them. And there are quite a number of other tutorials related to viewing logs, so you'll want to be sure to see those as well. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.